The movie begins with a young girl named Zazie, playing with her dolls, pretending to wed them. As a child, Zazie dreams of love, of walking down the aisle with the love of her life, like most of the girls do. However, dreams fade, dreams change, and her dream of being in love didn't last long. She had a rough childhood. Her parents liked to fight over trivial matters, and it doesn't matter whether it was a holiday or not. They fight every day, not even Christmas was spared. This opened her eyes to the turmoil of married life. It affected her sister, who became a dull person who didn't believe in Santa Claus. And her? Depression ate her. She compares her family to that of her best friend, Philip. His parents never argued. He has a perfect one. Zazie used to go to his house to find comfort. He was always there for her. As she witnesses how her parents scream at each other day by day, her faith in love also sinks deeper and deeper. She grows older as a completely different person, unmotivated, and always in trouble at school. On Valentine's Day, Zazie is sent to the principal's office after almost burning the school down. A man gifted her flowers and she set it on fire. She has no idea that the flowers were sprayed with a clear lacquer to preserve them. After the talk, she meets Philip, who is outside waiting for her. One thing about him is that in contrast to Zazie, he actually believes in love. Not surprising from a person who grew up in a loving household. Philip pulls out his handkerchief and wipes the traces of smoke on her face. She jokingly comments about him as the only person who carries an ironed handkerchief. But to him, it's a good thing that she is the only one who knows about it. Their friendship revolves around the idea that Philip believes his love is enough for the both of them. Zazie thinks otherwise, and it ends up ruining them when they try being lovers. Zazie promised herself not to lose a friend because of love again, so when her friend, Anton, shows the slightest interest in her, she immediately shuts him down. For her, friendship is everything. It's thicker than love. Friendship is gold and relationships are tin, she says. In the present time, Zazie lives alone in an apartment complex. Her life is basically stacked up, having little time to clear out her mailbox, making her landlord anxious about it, and also having little energy to clean her messy room. Everything is disorganized. Germans are known for always being in order, and her current life situation says enough about her. She finds her mailbox keys on her study table squeezed in a pack of cigarettes. Inside the stacked mailbox, she finds an invitation with large printed letters glued at the back that reads, "We're getting married." When she flips the invitation, she sees a picture of her best friend Philip and his fiancée Franziska. With the invitation in her hand, Zazie walks up to Anton in the study area and shows him the picture. First of all, he doesn't know who they are. Second, Philip is getting married in 12 hours. Anton is deeply confused as to why Zazie refers to Philip as her best friend when she never mentioned him at all. Zazie wants to be the first person Philip sees before he exchanges vows with his fiancée and convinces him to stop the wedding. After refusing to believe in love for so many years, Zazie feels Philip is not sure of what he's doing. However, Anton thinks it's already too late. Zazie can feel it in her gut that Philip is walking into his own demise. Anton suggests calling Philip, but unfortunately, she cut ties with him a long time ago. She does not have his phone number or his address. She also thinks his mother won't tell her where he lives since they had a falling out years ago. It's too complicated. Zazie explains that Franziska studied dentistry with him, and her father owns a large company. She believes Philip's love was bought. For Zazie, their wedding is the beginning of Philip's end. She cannot bear to see his beloved best friend face such a terrible fate. She recounts how Franziska was before. When they were children, they used to play pretend to be dentists and patients. Franziska once pulled out one of her teeth. Zazie is willing to do anything to save Philip from his cursed wedding. Anton refuses to help, but she threatens him she will not lie in his place again, or even pretend she's his girl whenever he cannot break up with his girlfriend. Due to stress from having to bear Zazie's judgment, Anton suddenly falls asleep. He suffers from narcolepsy. After a few seconds, he wakes up and is forced to give in to her demands. The next morning, Zazie wakes up late, and the ceremony starts at 11 a.m. She immediately gets dressed and drives to the venue with Anton. Anton survives the entire ordeal, although he has to endure sleeping randomly due to excessive stress during the ride. However, just as they walk into the ceremony, Philip and Franziska are declared as husband and wife. They are late. Her sister, Mala, sees her and is in shock to see she's been invited to the wedding. Even her parents are there. After the ceremony, Zazie and Anton come up to Philip to congratulate him. Philip wishes him luck in everything, although it's their first time seeing each other. Zazie introduces Anton as a good friend of hers, and Philip gives him cryptic advice, mentioning how he was once Zazie's good friend. Philip then greets all the other guests before taking a pictorial with the bride, while Zazie watches from a distance. The bitterness is clearly evident on her face. Her eyes are beaming with nostalgia, as she tells Anton that Philip's family once brought her with them skiing. His father got buried under an avalanche. At the reception, Zazie painfully watches as Philip and Franziska play a little game on stage. Leonie, Franziska's best friend, hosts the event. Their first game is to determine how much the newlyweds know about each other. The crowd cheers as they answer each question, and enjoy the moment when suddenly, the drunk Zazie runs up on stage and snatches the mic from Leonie. She then goes on to tell Philip that their wedding is a disaster and it is not too late to revoke it. She takes her parents as an example before grabbing the figurines on the wedding cake. Everything is in complete chaos. The guests watch in shock as she showers the couple with vomit. Meanwhile, Anton tries to stop her but faints and lands face first on the cake. Zazie is immediately knocked into reality when she realizes what happened to Anton. Seconds later, Anton regains consciousness and advises her to go. He deeply apologizes to the couple. Zazie's sister Mala follows her to ask for an explanation. Out of rage, she says something terrible must have happened for her to act that way. Mala asks Zazie to leave and never come back again. Anton guides Zazie to her bed, and she says sorry for dragging him to a grave situation. Hours pass by, and Zazie wakes up in the middle of the night. She walks up to Anton's room, asking him if he undressed her. She cannot remember what exactly happened due to intoxication. Anton wakes up confused and tells her that the wedding is supposed to happen that day. It's like everything that happened earlier was all a dream. Zazie walks back to her room and continues her sleep. When she wakes up, she starts to realize that everything is happening exactly like in her dream. Anton checking on her with a coffee, arriving late at the wedding, and talking to Mala about a gift. She pulls Anton aside to tell him that it feels like she lived every bit of what was happening. She recognizes the figurines on the cake and the gift. She also remembers one of the bridesmaids she is seated with. Struggling with the déjà vu, Zazie walks out. After calming herself down, she returns and sits beside Philip, asking him to talk. There, Philip's mother greets her, and Zazie learns that the invitation was from her. At the other table, Zazie's mother is losing it, asking why Zazie is at the groom's table. After taking a photo with Philip, Zazie asks him directly if he's really sure about the marriage. Instead of answering her, he says he was confused about why Zazie disappeared after spending one night with him. They used to see each other and talk every day, but Zazie was gone after that night. She says she's still there for him, but he just got married. They are now impossible. Their conversation is cut short when Leonie announces a performance from the bride dedicated to Philip. She then has to endure the following scenes before going home, heartbroken. However, she is woken up to the same banging sounds from the previous night. In the morning, while eating a pie, crying, Anton appears, telling her, why is she not yet ready? She's reliving the exact same day from the day before. This time, she tells Anton the truth that he slept with Philip and ghosted him upright afterward. She didn't want to lose her best friend, but she did anyway. Anton offers a suggestion to make the day as easy as possible for Zazie, and it's quite simple. She will sit and smile and enjoy the celebration. During a meal, Zazie excuses herself to go to the restroom. There, she recalls what the staff told her on their first encounter during her outburst. It is different in another universe, and there are millions of universes. She realizes that she did in fact experience what she thought were dreams. Thinking that she's going crazy, she then dials an emergency psychiatric hotline to ask about what is going on with her. After telling the operator on the other line that she doesn't feel threatened by the situation, but rather confused, the operator hangs up on her. Suddenly, she hears a commotion. The scene shifts to Franziska and Leonie. Franziska is having a panic attack, and Leonie is trying to calm her down. Philip is like a brother to Franziska, and she thinks her love for him is not enough to last a lifetime. Leonie tells her that it's too late to do something about it. When she returns to the reception area, she learns that Anton and Melanie went to the bathroom together. She knocks on the cubicle and asks Melanie where Franziska got her hair done that day. At the break of dawn, the same thing happened again. The banging sounds, the figurine falling to the floor, and her waking up at the exact time. This time, she gets up early and leaves Anton. She drives to the parlor where Melanie has told her Franziska got her hair done. After exchanging pleasantries, Zazie asks her if she is really sure about the marriage. She mentions how Franziska sees Philip as a brother, but the latter assures her that everything is fine. Emotions start to flare as the argument escalates. Franziska finally has enough and tells Zazie to leave. When Zazie refuses, Franziska mentions that Zazie never changed. She's still the same little girl. Franziska also confesses that she pulled Zazie's tooth on purpose before yelling at her to go. Zazie still decides to attend the wedding, but this time she wants to do what she actually did the first time, to vomit on the newlyweds. However, even when she tries, she cannot. And in this instance, Anton is able to prevent himself from falling asleep. They leave the venue and head home. Zazie tells her friend Patrick how terrible it is to wake up early in the morning from the banging sounds coming from his room. He is known to bring home different girls, but he swears he's been practicing abstinence for 4 weeks now. In the end, he admits he did in fact sleep with a girl last night. When Zazie lies inside the bathtub to reflect on her actions, Anton comes up to her and suggests calling Philip on the morrow to apologize. She curls up on her side and drifts to sleep. The next day, Zazie is woken up again by the banging sounds from Patrick's room. She puts on her headphones to mute the irritating sounds. Moments later, it suddenly stops. She decides to go to the bathroom when she stumbles upon the girl Anton is sleeping with. It's Franziska. Both are startled upon seeing each other. Franziska's immediate reaction is to ask her not to say anything to Philip, but Zazie bursts out laughing. She realizes it's Franziska who's been keeping her awake all this time. She refuses to keep her mouth shut. She cannot bear to see that the nicest person she knows is being cheated on like this. Franziska tries to defend herself, but Zazie turns a deaf ear. Their confrontation escalates and a fight ensues. They begin wrestling on the floor while trying to shove their arguments down each other's throats. Franziska fights her way out of the apartment while Zazie grabs her foot to stop her. Patrick, who has heard the commotion, steps out of his room. Zazie informs him that Franziska is about to get married that day. Anton also appears and is informed that the girl who's been with Patrick the entire night is Franziska, the bride. Zazie grabs her jacket and leaves the apartment to tell Philip everything, while Franziska is in shambles, trying to find her keys in Patrick's room. Anton is against the idea, telling Zazie to let them be, but she cannot. She's determined to stop the wedding. Franziska tries to chase Zazie, but fails. When Philip opens the door, she immediately wraps her arms around him. Inside, she explains what happened, but Philip is hesitant to believe her. Even though she suddenly disappeared years ago, she would never lie to him. He thinks Franziska cannot do that either. To prove her point, Zazie and Philip drive to Franziska's to confront her, showing the bite mark she sustained during the altercation. Franziska explains she doesn't understand what's happening. Leonie confirms Franziska's statement, proving that they are with each other the entire night. Franziska turns to Philip, asking him why they are together. Philip explains, and Franziska turns away. Leonie consoles her while Philip asks Zazie if she's taking. They think she's going crazy and is under the influence. Zazie scoffs in disbelief and decides to return home. To distract herself from what happened, Zazie, Anton, and Patrick clean their apartment. Earlier, Zazie tells Patrick that she blamed herself for the fallout of her parents' relationship. She also mentioned she noticed that every time a couple is supposed to end, they decide to get married instead. In the end, it's their children who suffer. Later, the friends share a few drinks where they share their plans for the future. Patrick wants to create a YouTube channel to give young men advice on dating. He believes that if he treats a woman nicely, like holding the door open for them, they will see him as worthy of becoming a father to their child, or at least consider sleeping with him. Although he believes that people only see what people want to see, and not him. Zazie spaces out in the middle of the conversation. Anton and Patrick suspect she's thinking of doing something terrible, but she denies it. Zazie waits until the banging sounds start again before dressing up differently. She whips out her phone and records Patrick and Franziska. Then, she shows the video to Philip, but he refuses to believe that it was taken the same day. Zazie realizes she will need stronger proof and promises to return the next day. Before recording, she plays the radio announcing the date and the weather that day. Philip finally believes, asking her if she wants to go somewhere. Anywhere, as long as they are together. Philip calls off the wedding by sending Franziska the video clip of her sleeping with Patrick. The two then spend the day near the shore, drinking beers. He would have been tying the knot today, but he's now spending time with his childhood best friend. He starts having doubts about what he did, thinking Franziska might hurt herself. Zazie apologizes for treating him so badly, but she assumes that he is looking for another girl because of that. Philip argues, telling her that one cannot choose whom to love. It just happens. After this realization, Philip meets Franziska. They exchange apologies and promise not to hurt each other again. Zazie observes from afar as Philip wipes Franziska's face with an ironed handkerchief. Now, she's not the only one who knows Philip's little secret. Zazie goes home and sleeps. When she wakes up, the pattern happens again. The banging sounds, the figurine falling. She's stuck in a time loop and she can't escape. It's like the day never really came to an end. She will have to relive the day her dearest best friend married another again and again. Every single day, she attends the wedding and watches the exact same moments. One random day, she reaches her breaking point and decides not to go. Anton, like what happened multiple times, asks her, but she tells him they won't attend the wedding. He then proposes to go get something from the bakery, but Zazie is not feeling up to it. Later, Anton returns to her bedroom to ask what has been bothering her. All of a sudden, Amy, Anton's lover, yells outside the room looking for him. Amy opens the door without notice. Patrick explains that he bumped into Amy in the hallway when he went out to get cigarettes. Amy explains she called Anton multiple times but he never answered. She lifts the picnic basket, telling him that she likes to go on a picnic. Anton tries to explain in the most calm way that he doesn't want to in order to avoid falling asleep. As he stutters, Zazie holds his face and kisses him. Getting her heart broken in front of her face, Amy leaves. Meanwhile, Patrick is utterly surprised and slowly approaches them while composing himself. He doesn't want the two of his friends to start doing something foolish. He invites Anton to go with him to study, but Zazie stops Anton. Patrick believes it will ruin the friendship they built all these years. Triggered by the argument and the rapid pace of events, Anton faints but immediately recovers. After a heavy sigh, Anton comes up with a decision to stay with Zazie. Patrick thinks this is the beginning of the end. Their story starts off strong with a kiss, but the opposite happens when they are left alone. Sitting on different sides of the bed, Zazie asks Anton to tell her a story, the first thing he can remember. It's a memory from when he was a child, during the Soccer World Cup of the year 1998. Anton was 3 years old and was with his parents watching the game. He can still recall the name of the player who scored a goal to bring a win for his country, Michael Owen. This routine repeats every day, with Zazie asking him for stories all the time. On the second day, Zazie faces him and asks for another story from when he was 5 years old. On the third day, Zazie and Anton are now hugging each other as she asks for one from when he was 7 years old. They exchange a kiss and it all happens over again. Amy seeing them kissing, Patrick begging them to stop what they have, and them finally sleeping together. Zazie asks for another story, one from when Anton was 9 years old. This continues on. When Anton was 13 years old, his parents got divorced. Zazie notes this may be the reason why Anton cannot say no to anything. Meanwhile, she cannot say yes. He tells her how much he loves her before planting a kiss on her lips. Their conversation makes her realize something. She makes her way to the wedding once more. Zazie arrives when the venue is still being prepared, and it is in a complete mess. Mala is still shocked to see her. Zazie looks for her mom and sees her talking to his dad. She breaks down, telling her the story of how she slept with Anton over and over again. Her mother lovingly stares at her, knowing exactly why she feels terrible. Zazie is in love with Anton, yet she doesn't want to accept it. When she returns home, she communicates her feelings with Anton and apologizes to him. She wants it to stop. Anton thinks he deserves it for treating Amy the way Zazie treats him now. Meanwhile, Patrick is in a dilemma. He still thinks their relationship will ruin them. When the day repeats, Zazie walks up to Anton's room and imagines them lying beside each other and even getting married. When he wakes up, he will not remember what happened yesterday, the other day, or the day before that. Zazie decides to wait for Franziska in the kitchen. Unlike their first encounter, Zazie is utterly calm. She greets Franziska, who's appalled to see her in the same apartment. Zazie disregards the idea that Franziska slept with Patrick and tells her Philip will understand and forgive her, but Franziska cannot do it anymore. Philip is too good for her, and he deserves more. She wants to call the wedding off, and Zazie is left dumbfounded as Franziska leaves, yelling and looking for her things. Later, Zazie drives to the venue. Now, there are no guests other than her mother, who explains that her father went somewhere after learning that the wedding has been canceled. Her mother also expresses her interest in getting a small apartment for herself. Her marriage is not working anymore. Zazie returns to her apartment, and Anton greets her. He mentions that Zazie seems like another person, after telling him that Franziska called off the wedding. Unlike before, she is somewhat disappointed. Anton tells her she likes judging everyone, and he wonders why Zazie is acting like that now. If only Anton can remember what happened, he will understand. After shaking hands to avoid misunderstanding, the two share a passionate kiss. But it's all in Zazy's imagination. The doorbell rings. It's Amy again with the picnic basket. Zazy volunteers to lie for him, but Anton thinks that would be impolite, so he faces Amy, who plants a kiss on his lips once she sees him. Zazy watches as the man she loves is being taken by another woman. She then let Amy take Anton to the park for a picnic. Zazy orders herself a large box of pizza and starts painting a chair. Patrick notices that she's in a good mood, but Zazy disagrees. She admits she likes Anton but won't tell him. Patrick doesn't want that to happen as well, since he doesn't want anything to change in their friendship. Zazy promises. On the next day, Zazy wears an elegant green dress and asks Anton to drive the motorbike to the wedding. She also holds his hand while they walk into the venue. She introduces Anton to her sister as her housemate and greets Philip, who is as happy to see her. After the wedding, her mother tells her about something terrible she did in her dreams. She dreamt of what Zazy did the first time, drunk and ruined the wedding. Zazy stops her, assuring that everything is okay. After so long, she tells her mother that she really loves her. Zazy then excuses herself to find Anton, only to learn he is gone, together with Melanie. Zazy is concerned that the same thing will happen again. She immediately finds him and bangs the door, looking for him. But there is no Anton, only Melanie. Anton is in the men's comfort room. When she sees him, she's unable to stop herself from confessing her feelings toward him, but Anton thinks everything is too fast, and he needs the time to process everything. He excuses himself and leaves. Zazy assures him it's alright since tomorrow. He will not remember anything. To process her feelings, she returns to the toilet where she meets the same staff, who gives her some advice. One cannot want what one wants, whatever that means. After the conversation, Zazy decides to enjoy the wedding, which goes as smoothly as it's supposed to be. Her parents dance to the music and everyone is having fun. The following morning, she is woken up to the same sound, but decides to sleep it off. When she wakes up again, Anton knocks on her door, but she immediately tells him they are not going to the wedding, assuming that the day is on repeat again. But Anton explains the wedding took place yesterday and she also told him about her feelings. Zazy is confused. She has escaped the time loop. Anton approaches her and tells her they can be together despite their parents having crappy marriage life. As they share a kiss, there is another knock on the door. When the door opens, Patrick and Amy appear. Turns out, Amy was the girl in Patrick's room this time, and they went out together yesterday. Patrick and Amy bid goodbye, leaving Anton and Zazy. The film ends with another wedding, but this time it's Anton and Zazy's.